What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cafe LeBlanc podcast number 15. This is also Racing's first podcast here, kind of like a solo adventure here. So, thank you so much for getting us this. This is also one of my really very few not persona or like Atlas podcasts. So, thank you so much for everybody tuning in today. So, Racing.
Yeah, what's up? I guess this is my first podcast though. But we'll have the kind of two intros there. But yeah, all things Square Enix, right? We've talked a couple times about like Square with either Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy stuff like that. But now we're taking the deep dive into all things Square. You know?
Yeah, Square Enix has been an interesting company. I mean, and obviously, like people that know you and people that know may not know, but I'm a huge Square Enix fan. Like, from Final Fantasy to Kingdom Hearts to we were just talking about Tomb Raider. Like, I like a lot of the properties from them. So, like, I have a lot of thoughts about it, and not all of them are bad. To me, I feel like it's more like tough love. Like there's a lot of stuff that like I
Right.
say it with love. I don't necessarily mean it like in a bad, mean spirited way. I know when I talk, some people are like, "Oh, he's shit talking." I'm like, no, like I mean it in a good way. I'm like I'm not necessarily being mean or anything about it, but I have a lot to say. So it's definitely gonna be a good podcast today.
Yeah, well, like I feel like whenever Square Enix does it right, they do it so right sometimes, right? They make gems. Either they make a gem or they make complete crap. It's like
Oh
it's
yeah,
either or with them
it-
sometimes,
it's
man.
a really hit or miss, and I mean, we can even start with a lot of couple examples here. Or if you even want to talk from the beginning, like what was your first Square Enix game?
The first one I ever did, because like I wish I would have grown up playing Kingdom Hearts, but I was kind of my early teens. That's where I started, and I just played their whole library after that. But like Kingdom Hearts 1, that's where
Mhm.
I started, and that was like the first game to like make me cry. You know what I mean? Like that Kingdom Hearts 1, the whole way through, and you make it to the end, and it has a good like even after you beat the game, it has good ending material. It took a
Yeah,
while for us to
definitely.
even get the final mixes like in the West, but like I consider that to be like almost a 10 out of 10 game from Square. Like Kingdom Hearts 1, such a gem, dude.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, I think the first Final Fantasy game. I don't think it was seven. I think it was the very first Final Fantasy. My uncle gave me a NES, and he had a copy of the first Final Fantasy game on it. And I played that, but I didn't get very far. I didn't understand RPGs. I didn't understand like any of that stuff. You could hit that was actually my first time like playing an RPG or anything. So like I didn't know what was going on or anything like that. I didn't know English either. So at the time
Oh,
I was like super lost and everything. But years later, I got my mom to buy us a PlayStation 1. A PlayStation 2 had already come out, and she refused for a long time. I was like, okay, look, the PlayStation 2 is out. The PlayStation 1 is not super cheap. Can you buy us one? And she bought us with a bunch of games. So one of the games was Final Fantasy 7. So I played that, and I played that a lot. I played that, and then I was like, I want to play more RPGs. You know, that's kind of like my thing at the time. So I
definitely.
played. Right after that, I got my dad, who was traveling and everything. He got us a PlayStation 2. So I was like, yes, now I can play new games. At the time, I ended up playing the Final Fantasy X. That was like the first kind of game that I finished like completely, from beginning to end and everything. And I mean, it just made me cry. Like, how we're talking about like
Yeah,
that
dude.
game had so many emotions for me, like from the characters and everything like that. It was different too for me because Final Fantasy X, I think, was the first Final Fantasy game to be voice acted, right?
It might have been. It might
Yeah.
have been
And
because they do such a good job with the characters. I think that's why it gets you so hard in the Final Fantasy and like the Kingdom Hearts games, I think.
oh
But
yeah, yeah, definitely. And at the time I was like crying so hard. I was like, the ending is just like, oh man, this is such a rough game for me. And I was like, I don't know how it was, like 10, 11, something like that at the time. And I was just so sad about it. And I love it. Like I was like, that was the moment where I really kind of like became like a Final Fantasy fan. And then I
yeah.
went back and like I played pretty much from 7 up until 15. I played pretty much every single Final Fantasy at that point. And Tactics, I played that too. And
See, I haven't played some of the spin-off like Final Fantasy games yet.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to dig out some of the more obscure spin-offs and everything, but a lot of them is just so hard to find them. They don't really reprint a lot of them either. Like I will be interested if they made more of those, like Tactics, for example, was like a Nintendo Game Boy, well, Advance, I think, and then they
Hmm,
remade it again for the PS Vita or PSP, something like that. That's where I
that's
played it on the
interesting.
PSP. That was an interesting for me.
Yeah, mine was all console based. Like it was Kingdom Hearts 1 on the PS2. That was my first time playing like I think a Square Enix game, but the copy I actually bought, I'm not sure, but it was Kingdom Hearts 1. It might have been before Enix was absorbed by Square. I think it was just Squaresoft on it, which is kind of interesting.
Oh
I
yeah,
know,
the first Final Fantasy, no, the first Kingdom Hearts. You're right. Yeah, it does
yeah.
have the. I think the one that I have, whatever it is, has the SquareSoft logo on it. Yeah, you're right.
From what I heard, those are kind of rare actually, because the greatest hits, the like reprints of Kingdom Hearts 1, I think they have the Square Enix on there. That's when they merged. Because I know Kingdom Hearts 2
Right.
onward is the merge or whatever with the actual Square Enix brand. But yeah, it was all console for me. Like PS2 I think was like a golden era, and I especially think like JRPGs also exploded on the PS2 as well because they're open world. Like the PS2 just had like so much power in it at the time. It doesn't seem like a lot
Oh
now,
yeah,
but at the
yeah.
time,
A lot of people think that, but like if you think about it, I think of Final Fantasy 10 and 12 for that. Like if you look at the pre-rendered cutscenes, they almost look like PlayStation 3 games at times.
right?
I was
Yeah,
really blown away. I remember playing Final Fantasy 12 for the first time, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a PlayStation 2 game!" Like it looks so realistic. At the time, it looked like super
yeah.
realistic and like CD and everything. And I was blown away. That was one of the biggest thing for me. I was like, I was just so taken back as far as like how much they did, because I remember playing Final Fantasy 7, and like the blocky kind of like characters and everything like that.
Yeah,
And I think that was like the first time where you can kind of experience those games. On the other hand, Kingdom Hearts had like that anime aesthetic, you know.
definitely.
Yeah, it looked more anime than like the Final Fantasy games. Which, by the way, like it's funny for me now that you're talking about Kingdom Hearts, because for me, I remember seeing it, but I didn't play them until much later. I
That's
was
kind
like
of what it was
15.
like with me.
I was like
Yeah,
15 when I played the first Kingdom Hearts, and I remember that because Kingdom Hearts 2 was already out, and I was like, I kind of need to get caught up with these games. So I really want to play them, and I played the first one, and I remember being like, I really need to play the second one right now. Which, by the way, is a huge mistake too, because you're not supposed to play the first one and then the second one. You're supposed to play Chain of Memories too. In
yeah.
between that. And I was so lost for like the first like 6 hours of the game. I was like, what the fuck is this game? Where's Sora? What's going on? Who's these characters? Like,
It's so weird. I like Roxas a lot too, but at
oh
the
yeah,
time I remember
I did
playing
too.
KH2 and I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah,
I
I like.
soon then would play like
Yeah,
358 over 2 days and watch the movie. And I'm like, it was like Roxas is the best character. I was
yeah.
like,
Honestly, I really love Roxas, and whenever they did the bird, is that Bird by Sleep? No, which one is it? Yeah, Bird by Sleep with Ventus, Terra,
yeah,
and Aqua. Is that it? Yeah,
yeah, that's
that
Birth by
one
Sleep.
was like it became my favorite game on the PSP. I loved that game so much, and then like seeing like different characters and everything like that, I was cool too. But at the time when I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2, it was like, to me Kingdom Hearts 2 was like peak Kingdom Hearts. That was
Oh
like
yeah,
the best Kingdom Hearts game they ever made. And
like
I'm sure we're gonna get in detail about like your
for
history with
sure.
the third game and everything.
Oh god, Kingdom Hearts 3, what a dude. Here's how I see it. Like Kingdom Hearts 1, good origin, good start to the story. You learn a lot about the characters, but Kingdom Hearts 2 has like the perfect blend of like gameplay mechanics,
Yeah.
after game stuff. That one feels just fun to play, but like Birth by Sleep, I think that one's so good cuz like you have the three characters, and you see separate stories, and then once you beat all three characters to that game, you get to see like a full story. So I think story-wise, Birth by Sleep's like
Oh, definitely.
perfect.
I agree with you. I think that not only that, with the three separate characters that are super different from each other, that they play
True.
really different. Like, even though they're all like key wielders, they are like completely different from each other, and kind of like getting to know they're part of the story and everything like that. I That's one of the things that I always wanted from the main storyline. Kingdom Hearts. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to see like I wanted a game where I could play as Kairi and as Riku, and that never really happened until like I don't even want to talk about that game. Was it 3D game?
It happens in Kingdom Hearts 3, I guess, kind of, or whatever.
Kinda, yeah, but you don't really like get to play as them. Like you don't get
No.
that good, between you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a full story as the other
yeah,
characters. You don't really get
exactly,
to
yeah.
witness that.
And I always wanted that. But one of the biggest things that kind of shocked me was how they completely abandoned Final Fantasy from the Kingdom Hearts storyline.
Yeah, in KH3 especially. There's
Yeah,
nothing I don't think at all.
yeah, there's none at all. Like I played through the game recently again because I was like, I wanted to get that refresh and kind of like, oh, I wanna get ready once we get more stuff. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I totally was playing Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'm like, this final boss is gonna be bad, but like, it's not gonna be as bad as the Sephiroth boss, right? And there's like no Sephiroth boss. I'm like, there's no Sephiroth boss. Like that's been a staple. Like, how are
yeah,
they gonna get rid of that?
yeah. That's a lot. That's like one of the things that kind of made me almost like disappointed in a sense. I was like, I really because to me like the Final Fantasy characters are kind of like almost like even though they're not super important to the story or anything, just kind of like seeing them and interact with the
Right.
Disney characters and everything is always kind of like that's the shtick of Kingdom Hearts, right? That's the whole like the West and the East, like the
Yeah.
Final Fantasy characters and the Disney characters kind of interacting with each other and everything. That's always the whole point of the game and everything. So not seeing them just like it's almost like baffling. Like I was like, what happened? Like, and I really want to know like the background story for that. I have my own theory,
Right.
which we can probably talk about, but
I do as well. I mean, we could. Do we want to jump into KH3? Because I mean, I guess for the most part, I guess just go over KH1 and 2, right? Like
yeah,
I've said, like Kingdom Hearts 1, I guess was my start to just
mhm,
Square in general.
yeah,
And I think Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, even if you don't play like Chain of Memories, you probably should, because I think that one's underrated.
of course,
I
yeah.
guess like Rechain of
It's
Memories,
like
right? The
underrated except for
console.
like the gameplay. The gameplay is probably one of the worst gameplay with the cards and everything.
I kind of
I
like it weirdly.
do you really? That's like the
Yeah,
like I remember playing it like much later, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? Where is it?"
it's definitely
It
weird.
takes time, especially when you play the Game Boy version, because that's the one I played. I played the Game Boy
Oh
version.
no.
I didn't play the original PlayStation 2 one, so
Yeah,
I went back like years later, but it was hard. It was hard for me to kind of like go back into the. Which, by the way, I will commend them making a Kingdom Hearts game on the Game Boy is like gold. Like I don't know, it's just like the
yeah.
whole idea of like cramming a whole big game into like this little handheld thing.
It's
That
kind
was
of
so
funny.
genius.
They pulled kind of an Atlas where they're like, yeah, we have ties with Sony, but we're gonna do a couple Nintendo things while we're at it, though. You know what I mean? It's actually
Right.
weird because like Chain of Memories, it was a handheld game, and then Rechain of Memories is the console game. They actually went
Right.
handheld then to console. It's so weird and backwards how
It's
they
weird.
did that,
Sony must
but
have been like, nah, you need to get that over here.
yeah, come on now, you ain't messing the story up. It's
Right.
already messed up. It's messed up enough and confusing. You got to bring that over, but like Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories 2, honestly, I think all of it's perfect. Even up to Birth by Sleep. I love all of that. And I
Mhm.
think Kingdom Hearts 2 has some of the best in-game material. Like you have the whole cavern, remember, and so I'm not sure if you remember that part, but it's like the giant cavern underneath, I think, Hollow Bastion, and it's basically just to
Oh
keep you all
yeah,
the way
yeah.
there, and you
It's
defeat
so good. All that part is so it's such a good
oh
dungeon. Yeah.
the music too. It's such a bop in there. You know what I mean? And
Oh
then you
yeah,
fight
for
all
sure,
the
for
data
sure.
versions,
Hmm.
all 13 as Sora.
Hmm.
It feels so good, and I don't see a lot of games doing that nowadays with like in-game content. Like there's so much in-game content at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, I guess.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. They definitely. That's one of the things that I always liked about Kingdom Hearts. Like, unlike Final Fantasy games or all these other games, Kingdom Hearts. So like, you finish the game, but there's like all this other stuff you can do. You can visit the other worlds again. You can all this
yeah,
stuff. Even the gummy ship, which I never been a fan of the
me
system or
neither.
anything like that, but it's still creative that you can just like go and build your own ship and do those missions and do all that kind of stuff. Like I remember I had a friend that was obsessed with that. He had like the best ship
Really,
in the game. Like he like spent hours just building his gummy ship and like going around collecting pieces and everything. I'm like, that's dedication, brother. I can give that to him.
I couldn't do that, man.
Yeah.
I always, anytime there's a gummy mission, I'm just like, how long can I just hold down the button and spam triangle to do like the special moves till this is over?
Right.
Yeah,
I always hated having to do them to like unlock the next world. Kind of like, oh man, I just hate it so much. I wish that it was kind of like a side content kind of thing. But at the same
right.
time, I was like, that's fine. You know, it's not. It doesn't bother me. I never got stuck on one of them that I wasn't like able to do or anything like that.
Huh.
But it was just kind of just there.
So what would you say? Like, I mean, there's a ton of worlds in Kingdom Hearts One and Kingdom Hearts Two, but like, if you had to pick your favorite world, like
My
which one do you think it'd
favorite
be?
world ever is the Nightmare Before Christmas one.
It's so good in
It's
both Kingdom
so good
Hearts.
in both games, exactly. Yeah. Although I also like the Pirates of the Caribbean too. I don't even like the Pirates of the Caribbean, but I like the world that they built and everything. It looks pretty cool for a PlayStation 2 game. It looks realistic, you know,
It's
like it looks really detailed
yeah.
and everything. So,
I've seen
uh,
some stuff like those look better than certain games I've seen nowadays. To be
right,
honest
exactly.
with you,
Like I was just really impressed. So I'll but definitely the I just mentioned it. It's just blew my mind. What's that? Halloween Town? Is that what it's called?
yeah, Halloween. Oh, yeah, the Night Before Christmas, Halloween
Yeah,
Town.
yeah,
Yeah,
mhm.
it's so good.
Yeah.
They
That
get
was.
in the pumpkin keyblade. That just
Oh
looks
yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah.
badass.
You know, one thing that I will say that I wanted always, well, two things. One, I wanted to travel to some Final Fantasy worlds. Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine going to like the Final Fantasy VII world or like Final
Well, have
Fantasy
you
X?
heard talks like what Kingdom Hearts might be? Because I think they're done with Disney assets now. I think Kingdom Hearts is. Apparently, there were talks of like Verum Rex, which is like the ending of KH3. You gotta, I mean, you gotta jump
Mm.
deep to like even know about it, like really. But there's
Yeah.
speculation that maybe the next Kingdom Hearts stuff is gonna be jumping around Final Fantasy things because there was no Final Fantasy in like KH3, so apparently there might be talks of like them trying to do something like that
I don't know.
in
It'll
the
be
future.
interesting if they actually end up doing something like that. I will be open to some of this stuff. I don't know. It just really depends on how they do it. But I feel like a good, healthy mix of like Disney and Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy is good. Because like to me,
Yeah,
and we can probably jump into Kingdom Hearts 3, but that was almost kind of the one thing that I didn't like about the game. Is like the worlds are really well made, but some of them just kind of feel just there because they're Disney worlds. Like they don't really do anything with the
yeah,
story or
true.
anything. And that was one of my biggest like I'll say criticisms of the game. Like the Frozen world, you know, this cutscene where they're like singing the Frozen
Yeah,
song and everything. And I was like, can we fucking go? Like I really just want to go to the next world.
that kind of brings up what who Kingdom Hearts 3 was for, right? It's like, was it for the Disney kids that are watching Frozen, or the adults
Yeah.
who played KH2 back in the
Yeah,
day?
I was like, and this is kind of like what bothered me. I was like Nomura, you know who is playing your games. It's not that
Yeah,
10-year-old kid that just started playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Sure as hell, he's not playing the final game on this series.
yeah, no kidding. I think they
uh,
tried to like pull that audience. I think a little bit, which is
yeah, I think they did,
interesting.
and I'll be interested to know like how many people got into the series with Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, I don't know if anybody wants to comment below and let me know like how old are you and did you start with Kingdom Hearts 3? I just want to know.
What's the Kingdom Hearts audience now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
But
I remember like when Kingdom Hearts 3 was kind of like on the hype and everything, all the people like I was talking to like people our age group, you know, like in the
right,
20s
yeah.
that play those games back in the day. So I'm like, I don't know how many kids actually just went and bought this game. I'm like, yeah, mom, I want Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, I
I
know I need to
went
play 8 games, but I want to play the third game.
the 8 spin-offs and the 7 handheld. Well, I guess the remixes you don't need them anymore. But I went to midnight release and it was all like
Dude,
20,
yeah,
30-year-old
exactly.
people.
That's me too. I went to pick up that, and what else? There was another game that came out on the same time as this one. I
Oh,
don't
Resident
remember.
Evil
Resident Evil
2?
2. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I
I
remember
went
all
to
the
pick up
memes.
both of them. I went to pick up both of them. I actually did a giveaway in my channel for both of them, and
Wow.
yeah, it was cool. Back in the day, I had like 100 subscribers, and I was like, so that what I did was this: I played Kingdom Hearts for like 3 hours, and then I played Resident Evil the entire night, beat Resident Evil, and then I continued to play Kingdom
Jeez,
Hearts.
man.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't sleep for
nuts.
like 2 days. I was just like so excited playing the games and everything.
Yeah, I remember rushing through Kingdom Hearts 3 just for the story. And I heard there's actually a bit about why Frozen's kind of bad. So
Yeah.
apparently the Frozen movie wasn't out yet, and it was written that Elsa was supposed to be the villain throughout Frozen. Like that's who the boss was going to be in like the giant frozen castle in the Frozen part
Oh,
Kingdom Hearts 3, but they had to cut it out
oh, okay,
because
okay.
she wasn't going to be a villain. And I guess they
That
just
makes
sort of
sense.
screwed it.
I don't
Yeah.
know. There's like so many theories that I've seen from a lot of people. For example, like if you want to kind of like jump into the Final Fantasy thing,
Yeah.
I've seen from other people just for like a minute. You know how they have like Josora, which is like the Final Fantasy spoofs that they have there, which is kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
almost a funny thing. So from what I heard, which I don't know if it's true or not, Nomura originally made the Final Fantasy 13 versus, which is 15
Oh
now,
yeah, versus
and
13, right?
and
Yeah.
he wanted to finish that game, but then Square Enix was like, no, you need to make Kingdom Hearts 3 right now because we need to sell that thing.
Yeah.
So the whole reason why he didn't add Final Fantasy into it was because he was pissed that he was being forced to make 3 instead of 13, which is the one that he wanted to make. So he made all these
Hmm.
characters kind of like a fuck you to Square Enix from forcing him to do the other game,
That's
which is
interesting.
kind of like I can see that because if to me the point where and I know I'm gonna get some heat for this because I always do, but the breaking point for me as far as like a Square Enix fans was both 15 and 3, which is both of the games that Nomura
True.
touched. Like that's like the two games that kind of like almost like I was like disappointed on. Like 13 wasn't super good, but I was okay with it. You know, I was like I
Yeah.
after the second game I just didn't follow the story and I was like, I'm fine. I enjoyed the first game, but didn't really enjoy the second one too much. And the third one I was just like, I'm not even gonna bother with that anymore. But then like I was really banking everything on 15. I was like, oh man, I'm like super excited to 15. Been waiting for that game for like 10 years.
I
And
know, right? Well, it's
yeah,
like the same for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's one
exactly.
thing if
Yeah.
like they were just bad sequels, but that's like no, people waited like a decade for both of these games and
Yeah,
they were
and I
not
feel like
good.
it's almost like, and I get that for a lot of people, I get it. Like for example, Shin Megami Tensei 5, right? That game hasn't been in development for a long time. It's been in development for like 4 or 5 years, but people have been waiting for that game since what, like, uh,
I don't know. It's
yeah,
been
like
over 5 years
yeah,
at
yeah,
least, right?
It's been like 7 years since
Right.
the fourth game came out. So like, if it comes out and it's not good, I'll get how people will be mad. You know, like sure the game didn't take 10 years to make, but I waited 10 years for 15. You know, like
Right.
like same thing with Kingdom Hearts 3. I was like, yeah, maybe it didn't take all this time to make the one game, but I personally like after playing Kingdom Hearts 3, 2, I really want to play Kingdom Hearts 3. I want to like
Yeah.
enjoy that experience and everything. I don't know, like I don't want to say that it was a bad game because I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff about Kingdom Hearts 3. Like I enjoyed the gameplay. I thought it was like some of the stuff like the rides. I know some people didn't like the rides, but I thought it was a kick-ass idea, like having them summon and everything.
Yeah, it was different, but like I think each Kingdom Hearts game's done something a little different like that though.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
made sense to me, I think.
yeah, exactly. But then like the worlds, that's kind of like where it started to lose me story wise. I was
Yeah.
reading, the game is like, oh, you have to hurry up because the bad guy is coming, and I'm not doing spoilers or anything, but I'm like, like you have to do this and everything like that, and you're like, oh my god, we have to train and we have to be good and we have to be ready because we have to fight the darkness and whatever, and then literally like 20 hours of you going from world to world and nothing's happening and you're like, yo, what
Yeah.
are we doing? And then waiting for Kyrie and Riku and like nobody's hanging out with uh Sora. He's just hanging out by himself over there. I'm like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
going on? Like,
I'm glad you almost said something because I almost spoiled like a certain thing. There's a certain thing the whole game. There's a certain character I like a lot. I guess I'll say From Birth by Sleep. I won't give anything else other than that. But like the whole time you're wondering about them, and you think it's gonna be something that happens like halfway through the game, but it waits all the way to the end. Like you had to go through the entire game without getting any conclusion about the other like Kingdom Hearts characters. That's
yeah,
what kind
yeah,
of kills me. You're doing all Disney stuff the entire way through, and it's like, oh, you're final at the end. Now you get to see all that stuff. But I feel like they should have trickled it in because I feel like when Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and like even Birth by Sleep, it's like a lot of Disney, but it sort of goes back and forth, like the perfect sort of blend the whole time of like Final Fantasy and Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts stuff. But with 3, it was just like ton of Disney stuff, and then at the end, that's when you get your Kingdom Hearts characters and stuff like that. Which
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
yeah,
I feel like what they should have done is this: you do a world, and then you get story, like actual story. Not like,
right.
no, Sora, you can't do anything. You have to wait. And then like,
That sucks.
okay, all right. And then like
Yeah.
you go to the other world, and like, no, Sora, you have to find your ability or whatever. Go back and
Yes.
practice. You're like, okay, well, okay. And
Even
I
like
don't
the
know.
cutscenes it gives you, it's like, oh, you want more story? Here's Mickey and Riku getting a new pair of clothes, and then it goes to the next Disney World. It's like that's all we get.
Yeah, you like you get this cutscenes and everything, and then like you get all these little cutscenes with Kyrie, but you don't even see like her practice. She's just practicing or whatever, because she's training, right? That's the whole thing
Yeah,
about her. She's training, and you don't really see that all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of like
right.
annoyed whenever they announced this other Kingdom Hearts game, like the music one, so you can
Oh
get
yeah,
kind of like.
Melody and Memory.
Yeah, I skipped
Yeah,
that. I skipped that because I was like, I don't really want to pay another $60 so I can see them dancing, so I can find out the story about Kyrie.
it's
I
like
don't
I'm
know.
too pissed at Square right now to buy another game. And there's the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3 as well, which is like I really had a hard time even just understanding the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3. I know we're trying to like get spoilery, but like I still
Yeah.
hardly get it even.
Oh no, I totally get where you're coming from there. To me, it was more like I'm so mad at Square Enix because for what they've done that I just don't really want to touch it anymore. I was kind of like, I'm like,
Yeah.
like I wasn't necessarily mad at the ending. I was just mad about like, oh, this is the beginning of a new storyline, and then you're
Yeah.
kind of like, no, not spoilers, but I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge at this point. Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't
Right.
end the storyline, and
Yeah.
just kind of like fun because to us, and I don't know how you feel about this, but to me and a lot of people, Kingdom Hearts 3 for the longest time was teased as the final chapter. Like literally, like that's one of the things
Yeah.
that they talked about it the whole time. So
Yeah.
uh, going all the way through the thing and kind of like finding out that it is not the final chapter and that this game is so heavily tied up to a mobile game
Oh
is
my god, yeah,
it really
dude.
pissed me off because and
The
again
box. What's in the box?
yeah,
That whole thing. I'm
no
like, what's that?
spoilers, but the whole thing is like it's so heavily tied up to that mobile game that kind of pissed me off. I'm like, I'm not picking up the mobile game, Square Enix. I'm not gonna buy it.
I'm going to YouTube to look it all up
Yeah,
because I have no
exactly.
idea what this is about.
Exactly. I'm not doing that. It just really pissed me off. That's when it kind of like, well, fuck
Oh
you about that.
god. What
And
sucks is like we're gonna jump into it more, but there's even more mobile games now for like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is
oh
happening.
man, and the whole crazy thing is,
Ugh.
and I don't know, I want to kind of finish one franchise before we jump into
Yeah,
another
yeah, yeah,
one.
I know, but like I just
But
know there's more to come. So
yeah, Nomura interview and everything, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we're doing all this stuff," and then next year he announced that there's already more stuff coming too. Like that's not
yeah,
everything that we seen. He was like, "Oh, 2022, there's gonna be a bunch of more Final Fantasy stuff," and I'm like, "Can you focus and get the second part of Final Fantasy 7, please?"
it's
Like,
like yeah, and it's similar to Atlas because we do a lot of Persona stuff too. It's like the transparency with like the audience is so weird. Like they don't either they
yeah,
don't try at all or their excuse is just like well there's gonna be more later so just wait. It's like okay I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. I don't know. Like, I just kind of feel like at this point I was like, I mean, I don't really know how much I can like hold down to and everything like that. Because to me, like, and I told some people like this, like, to me, the only value that I see on Final Fantasy VII, the remake, is the fact that they attempted to kind of like change the story a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
oh, this is a new story. This is continue. This is like almost like a sequel, if you will, or whatever. And
yeah,
to me, that was the value of it. But the fact that they are not continuing this anytime soon, kind of at the same time, I'm like,
mm,
how much are you wanting me to hold on to? Like I don't know how long am I
right.
gonna wait for this. The same thing with Kingdom Hearts. Like they've been radio silence. They made a dancing spin-off game. Like I
Which I
don't
hear is
know.
good, and like Kingdom Hearts has the music for it, but it's
Oh, sure,
like,
sure. And
you know,
I'm not saying it's bad because I haven't played it. I can't give you an opinion about it. But I feel like I'm just annoyed about it. You know, like I'm kind of like I just want to see what's happening next. I don't know.
yeah, they definitely should like. I don't know. I've seen certain companies do this where they have like a roadmap that kind of shows everything, or it says if there's anything just even in progress, which would be kind of cool. But I guess we should just sort of wrap up our feelings here on Kingdom Hearts, then we can jump full Final Fantasy. But like, I don't know if you had to rank at least just the couple of top ones.
Yeah,
Like, I would put like I think Kingdom Hearts 2 has to be number one for me,
yeah,
right? It has a perfect blend of everything. Story's a little whatever because you have to play Chain of Memories and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
But then like Birth by Sleep's like an easy second, I think, because of the
yeah.
story and everything else. It's just a beautiful game too. Then it has Aqua in it, which Aqua's always been my
Yeah,
favorite
she's my favorite
character.
character.
Dude, Aqua's so
Yeah.
good, man. I don't
I
know.
was so happy when you get to play as her in Kingdom Hearts 3 for a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that was
also like the fragmentary passage. Did you play that?
the 2.8 was that it?
Yeah, 2.8. Yeah, it's Final Fantasy. It's like Birth by Sleep 0.2 because you add
Yeah,
zero
yeah,
point
yeah.
0.2 to 2. It's so dumb, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was so fun.
That was dumb,
I
but that
love
was
that.
cool. I like that. I like that. That was a nice kind of add on and everything. I guess I'm gonna agree with you. Like Kingdom Hearts 2, then Bird by Sleep, and then I'll say Kingdom Hearts 1 after that.
Yeah,
That's
Case
kind of like
1.
I'll do like my top three, I guess.
Yeah, for the most part, I think I have to go there with that. And like, I think most of the community understands the issues with KH3 and stuff like that. It isn't what we expected, and I think that a lot of that has to do with like even with like SMT5. And I said a little bit about this, but like Cyberpunk, it's like once
Mhm.
a game gets thrown in the media a lot, even if it's bad media, because it's being pressed back,
Yeah,
people's expectations become higher and higher and higher the longer you have to wait for a game.
of
And it almost
course,
feels like
yeah.
nothing will be enough.
Nothing. I agree with that. It's to me, it's the same thing. For example, with The Last of Us Part Two, and I'm not really gonna get into
Right.
like the whole debacle about everything, but I like
Mhm.
the first game. I was like excited for the second game, and it was really hyped for a lot of people. And I feel like I don't necessarily think a lot of people hated the game, but I think the disappointment was also coming from kind of like their expectations as well as they were wanting
Right.
to. Because to me, like the Last of Us wasn't the game of the year. The second game wasn't really like a game of the year game. It was a good game. I enjoyed the game, but I wasn't like, oh man, I'm this is the best game I ever played. Because I just mentioned it because it's been nominated for so many awards, and I'm like,
I didn't get that either.
I don't really see it. Like I don't know. I played a lot of good games that year, and I didn't really feel like the game really had like the hundreds of awards that is won. And like I don't really see it. I don't know. Maybe just
Yeah.
the game just maybe wasn't made for me or something. But which is funny because I loved the first game. It was my game of the year when it came out. But this game just kind of like I was like I don't know. Maybe it's just expectations, like you said. Maybe just kind of like managing. And we want to talk about expectations with Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true. I also
yeah.
had that with Borderlands 3 because like Borderlands 2 is like another masterpiece
Oh,
in my
dude,
mind.
for real, yeah. Borderlands 2 is like peak. Uh,
Yeah.
what is that? Game Gear? Is that what it is? The Big
Gearbox.
Gearbox, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like big Gearbox over there. I think everything they made after that isn't like. I hated that Borderlands spin-off, the game that they did. What is it called? The one.
Pre-sequel, you mean that one?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like that one. And
I
then they
actually
did.
love it,
You
weirdly.
love it? Yeah. No,
Yeah, I don't know.
no. It's like a Telltale game.
Oh, that
You know
was
which one
from the
I'm talking about?
people. Yeah, the Telltale people.
Yeah,
Tales from the Borderlands. I guess that
yeah.
wasn't necessarily Gearbox, but
Yeah, it was like a spin-off game that they did or whatever. I hated that game. It was just boring as hell. And then the third game wasn't bad. I like it. It
it's a
still had
similar
a lot of
situation where it's like it's
yeah.
not bad, but it didn't hit like the
It didn't hit
same level.
exactly.
Yeah,
And then they did this other game, the PlayStation 5, and that game just flop. It was like a
yeah.
massive.
Did you know they made like a Overwatch clone? Like 2 or 3 weeks before Overwatch launched, they had a
Oh
game
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just like
Yeah, I
Overwatch.
played it too. It was what is it called?
I completely forget. It's so forgettable. Overwatch came out, and that's why I
Yeah,
did my whole summer.
I actually I was on I banked on this game because of Overwatch. I'm sorry, because of the other games. I banked on them. I literally
Yeah.
bought the game. I played it with my friend, and we saw it flop. I was like, we thought that it
Oh.
wasn't gonna be Overwatch. We were like, no, this game is better because it had some pretty cool mechanics. I actually
I do
enjoyed it
remember
quite a bit.
liking it too. I
Yeah,
thought it had fun multiplayer objectives. It had objectives in that game that like I don't
oh
think a lot
yeah,
of games do
yeah.
nowadays.
And I really actually liked, like, if you want to kind of like talk a little bit about it, I like it had a lot of melee characters. It had like a lot of different kind of characters, like a good mix. Because Overwatch
Yeah.
has like three melee people, and everybody else is like
Yeah.
is a shooter. But that game had like a good healthy mix between like more melee characters and more like shooters and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everything after Overwatch kind of like it started a whole genre that didn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's kind of like an oddball. Like it only worked
Yeah.
because it was Overwatch. I don't think it worked as a whole, as a
Just because it
genre.
had Blizzard behind it. I think
Yeah,
that's why the whole PC community jumped on it. But although Borderlands has a lot of PC people, but I just think Blizzard just pushed it so hard. But either way, let's so I guess
okay.
that's our nail in the coffin
That's kind of
for
like a
Kingdom Hearts, I
moving
guess.
out to
But
Final Fantasy.
yeah.
So I guess we can start with your favorite Final Fantasy games, and then we'll just go from there.
So I'm not. I have like the deluxe editions of all the Kingdom Hearts games, so I've played all of those to death. But Final Fantasy is something that I've only been playing for like 4 or 5 ish years,
Oh,
so I'm not as huge into that. I've played the remake. Obviously, I'm like halfway through 10. I played a little bit of 8 and 9 because people wanted me to do that.
mhm.
I've beaten 15, and I kind of love 15. Like we've talked about, 15 all the way
Yeah.
up to pretty much the ending is kind of goofy or whatever, but yeah, um, that's pretty much my experience. I've beaten the remake. I've beaten 15. I've done some of the DLC. Although 15 has so many like episodes and things behind it, but
Yeah.
it's sort of my I guess experience with it. But I really loved the remake. But then again, that's coming from the perspective of a person who's I've never beat the original. I plan to
Mhm.
beat it. I plan to stream it soon to kind of compare. So I know a lot of people have been saying like, if you love the remake, you'll love the original. Like the original's so much better. That's the only comment like I ever see on posts about FF7 remake
Uh,
is like, remakes original's better. It's like,
I
okay,
think it really just depends from like perspective. For example,
yeah,
for me, the problem is you cannot remove your memories from the previous game. Like it's
exactly,
impossible for me to kind of be like, because to me, Final Fantasy is a remake. The new stuff feels so tacked on that it's really noticeable that it's there. Like it's and maybe it's for somebody like you that hasn't played Seven, the original one. Maybe it looks
exactly,
more natural. It kind of feels like a progression of the story. To me,
yeah,
it just was really jarring, like how like obvious the new stuff was. Like there's some parts where it was just kind of like annoying me, and I don't mean it because I really actually liked Seven for a lot of stuff. I love the new gameplay aspects that they did.
yeah.
I thought a lot of new storylines, like the little stories they did and everything, kind of work. But at the same time, the slums is like a 15-minute segment, and
Really,
and in this game it's like a whole, like you go from this area of the slums to this area of the slums, and there's like this whole storyline with the three friends. What I forgot their name. Um, the chubby dude and the dude with the bandana.
oh, Jesse
Yeah, just
Briggs and
yeah, yeah.
I can't remember the other dude.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
they go to Jesse's house and they go eat pizza and all kind of stuff like that. That's new. That's not in the original one.
I really like that part though,
And
the
I thought
driving
it
on
was
the
nice. It was
motorcycle.
nice because it gives them character. Like on the original game, they die, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, they kind of allude to that in the remake, I
Yeah,
guess.
but
But
that's where it comes from. Like the whole thing about the remake is you're changing the past. All your actions
right.
when the ghosts show up or whatever, you're changing things from the original games, and the ghosts are supposed to be there to stop you from changing the future.
Oh, I did not know
Oh,
that.
that
That's
you
insane. Oh my god, that's blowing my brain right now. Wait,
yeah.
because this
Every
game
time,
goes off of
every
Advent
time that you
Children,
see
the
the
movie, right?
ghost, everything that you see the ghost is something that is not in the original game that is being
Hmm.
changed at the moment.
Ah, I never put that because I haven't played the original. See, now if I play the
Yeah,
original, I'm gonna see that. That's kind of cool.
yeah.
I
So
really like that.
for example, there's a spot where the guy with the bandana, which I forgot his name again, Wedge, I think it's his name, or might be.
I think I don't know. Briggs and Wedge are the
Yeah,
two names. I
they're
don't know which one
names.
goes to
Which,
which.
which one? Yeah, I don't know, but he is about to die, and you rescue him. But when you rescue him from the ghost, and it's because you're literally fighting against time to kind of like saving
Hmm.
him. He's supposed to die in that particular point, but he
So
doesn't.
I wonder if the conclusion probably to the story is going to be different, right?
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yeah. They
Yeah.
already you already changed enough of time to trigger like a different timeline kind of thing. But
Hmm.
it's just to me at this point, I'm kind of thinking, how many timelines are we doing? Because you already see at least three separate timelines going on at this point. You have the original Final Fantasy VII timeline, you have the new remake timeline, and you have this timeline where Zack is alive and he's
Yeah.
not supposed to be in the other timeline. So I think it's like a different timeline because you have another Cloud with Zack.
Yeah, true. I guess we should spoiler warning for that because that is a lot newer than I guess
Oh
Kingdom
shit!
Hearts
I'm
3.
sorry.
But
I just literally went full
it's
spoilers
all
here.
good. Well, we should just say we should probably just people should just probably know that I guess a little bit
Yep.
because this is a deep dive into all of it. But
Yeah. But
yeah,
anyways,
honestly,
I just kind of like broke down this because I was like,
no, that's
to me,
good.
that was the exciting part. That was kind of like stuff like, okay, well, I want to see where you take that from. But then like Nomura is Nomura, and he likes to add complicated stuff to it. Like he overcomplicates storylines for no reason
Oh, it's so
sometimes.
true.
And I'm kind of like, where are you taking this? And I just want to know. And I really like, and it's not again, it's not that I hate it seven because a lot of people are like, I just because I was disappointed in some aspects doesn't mean I hated the game. Like I really liked it. I
Yeah,
obviously I was quite excited about all this, but I almost felt like I'm like, I just want to see where you take this storyline, but you're not doing it. You're doing this mobile game and this other mobile game
it's
because
so
all of this is being
strange.
worked out by Nomura. Nomura is directing all of these little projects and everything. So the second part
Yeah,
is gonna be well. Here's the kicker, though. This is why I explain all this to you. The first part of the game that we played is one of the three CDs. It's roughly about 15 hours of the full storyline.
so what's the full? If you play Final Fantasy 7 on PS2 or no PS1, right?
Mhm.
How long is that?
About 40 hours long.
That's about 40 hours,
Yeah,
and we
so if
play.
you
This
already
is so
played
weird.
15, it's only 15 hours
We
of
played
this
15
40-hour,
hours.
which became 50. I don't know, 30 hours out of that, and that's why kind of like that's kind of like my issue with the remake because a lot of it
Right,
feels really padded for me as somebody that knows the original storyline. Some aspects just feel like they drag for too long. I'm like,
they're stretching it
yo,
out.
we're still in the slums, and like there's all this stuff. For example, like the DLC with Juffy and everything.
Yeah,
That kind of almost to me is kind of like, man, they're gonna add more. This DLC shouldn't be DLC first of all because it's part of the story, and Yuffie is one of your party members in the game. So like, where does
right.
that leave people with the PlayStation 4? Like, how are they gonna play that? That's part of the storyline.
Yeah, and I made a video about this. Did you know that the like PlayStation Plus right now has Final Fantasy 7 remake for free? Did
Hmm.
you know that PlayStation Plus version of that game you can't get that to transfer to PS5? It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
work.
yeah. I know.
That's such a
That's
tease,
crazy.
man.
That is insane to me. That's like almost like a slap in the face, kind of like, hey, you get the game, but not really.
You thought you could get that Yuffie DLC? Nope, sorry. You're gonna have to actually buy the game. Although I got it for like $20 last year, which is kind of insane.
Sure, and it's not bad. I mean, like, I guess, like, I can't blame them for wanting money. Like, I understand this is a fucking corporation, like, it's a
That's
business.
true.
I know a lot of people like they give them shit all the time, and I myself give them shit all the time. Like,
The real
I can't,
Shinra is Square Enix. I think that's what we've concluded.
yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, I get it. It's a fucking business. They want to they have to make money off of these games.
Yeah,
It's not like they can just like continue to print out games and like nobody's, like. But at the same time, I'm like, how much DLC is okay? Because to me, like DLC has like two facets. One is like the Persona shit. You know, they do the music, they do the costumes, they do
Right.
random shit doesn't really matter. You know, it's just extra stuff. But then on the other hand, they
Right.
do the Square Enix thing, which is kind of like what pisses me off. Which is like literally storylines that are supposed to be in the game, they're selling them to you for like $5-10 a piece. You know, like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like if you wanted to get the full Final Fantasy 15 storyline, how many DLCs are for that? You know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 or 6, right?
At least 5 right now. They were gonna do even more. There was supposed to
Yeah,
be season
exactly.
pass part 2 that they're like the fans were like, no, we're not buying a whole other season pass for that. Which I
Bro,
completely
I don't
understand.
know if you knew this, but the director left the company. They
I
made
would
him.
too.
They made that screwed him over big time. I want to mention that because this screwed over so bad. So Nomura wrote the game. He made 15, but they went with Lightning, the other 13
Yeah.
storyline. So
Yeah.
they went for that one instead. And Nomura was like, okay, well, I have to do Kingdom Hearts. So then they were like, okay, well, what are we going to do for 15? And this dude worked on other Final Fantasy spin off stuff, you know, the little stuff. So they let him just work on 15. And
Right.
at first, they outsourced a lot of this stuff to like another company. And they were like, okay, now you make a whole game out of like all these scraps of like Nomura shit, third party
Wow.
shit. And the dude is like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I have like all these little pieces of different games put together. That's what
That's why it
15
feels
is.
half baked.
That's what 15 is. 15 is literally a bunch of games, different games put together. In fact, I'm surprised that it runs and plays as well as it does. Because, because you can clearly tell that there was like so much development issues with that game, and it still came out broken, but it was still a fully functional game. Like if you look at it and then compare to something like Cyberpunk or something like that, like the
Oh
game still
god.
runs. The game still, it might have a
It
shitty ending.
looks nice too.
It
It
looks
looks
great.
really good.
In
Yeah.
fact, you can tell what the different directors did. Like the Mura did a whole first area that you see, which is like where
Totally.
when you're around in the wild and you're camping out with the friends and everything like
That
that.
feels very like Nomura being
That's
close
like
to the
really
buddies.
cohesive. And then you have a movie, and
Get the movie, get the anime.
you have the and then
Yeah.
that's after leaving that first town area. That's when they started to kind of like lose me. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going
It's
on.
so
And then you go to
random.
the city, and then you go over there. I mean, no spoilers on 15. But I'll keep it. I'll try to keep it non spoiler free. But there's a certain point where there's a skip. And I'm just gonna say skip. I'm not gonna explain
Oh,
anything,
I know
but
what you mean
you
now.
know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And
Yeah.
that's what completely lost me. Like
So is
if I was like finding with like a cohesive story, moving forward, there's like it made absolutely no fucking sense.
is that the point where Nomura is gone, or
Yeah,
did
yeah,
he
he was
deliberately do
gone.
that?
He was gone at that point.
It's so weird. Like
Yeah,
chapters 1 through I think like 9 or 10. I think it's around 13 or I think there's like 13 or 14 chapters
yeah.
if I
The
believe.
last like 4 or 5 chapters make absolutely no sense.
Yeah, the
And,
start of those chapters though, I didn't mind. It was different, but it was enough for me to be like, I could still go with this because
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
whole horror bit where you have none of your friends, none of your equipment, and you're doing like a whole horror bit, which I'm like, this is an okay change of pace, but everything beyond that, story wise, makes absolutely no sense. Like you're
yeah.
flying through crystals. There's weird time warps inside. It completely changes the course of what happens. Not to mention, I guess, because we were talking about DLC and how
Yeah.
chunks of the characters were gone. Like Ignis, Gladius, Prompto all have a separate DLC that you have to have, and you can either have the season pass or buy them all separately. But whole chunks of story are taken out for them, and they randomly leave your party. They randomly jump on, which to me feels like the part where it's like not only are we getting a weird story with the main character, but the side characters. I feel like that should be stuff that we should like definitely be seeing because I feel like that gives a bigger impact to the end of the story if you know what happens to all the other side characters
Yeah, that's kind of like
alongside it.
that's my issue because at that point you can clearly tell that this DLC was part of the game because there's
Yeah,
a point where the characters split up. You're by yourself now, and every character is doing like their own thing, and the DLC is
yeah.
literally that particular point where everybody doing their thing, and I'm like, what's the point of all this? Like that's where kind of it's like annoyed me, like really, really disappointed me. Like it's not even like I'm mad, I'm just disappointed. Like
Yeah, and I might be wrong about this, but I think like literally like maybe like a month after, one of the whole DLCs were already out. So like
yeah,
they
no,
already had that thing pretty
you're
much done.
100% correct. Yeah, the DLC for at least one of the DLCs was out within like a month or two. Like you can clearly tell that was
Yeah.
like just an extra thing. And you know what?
Mm.
I'm just done. 15 is done. It's not gonna come back. The director is gone. He's really funny because I feel bad for him. They made him a new studio. I don't know if you knew this. They made him a new studio,
No.
and they just appointed him head. And I was like, okay, make a new game.
That's insane.
Dude
It's
lasted like a month.
I'll give him, props because the game's not that bad if you just don't do chapter 13 on. Like if you just go up to that point and just like act like you don't know what's happening. The side quests are actually fun. Having the boys around, it's pretty good. They get decent development too. But like I said, they randomly leave at times. It's like what happened there. They don't even discuss really what happens. I think Ignis comes back and he's like
He has a
blind.
scar or something like that. Who has a scar? He has a scar?
Gladius, I think, has a scar on his face, but like Ignis, he can't see. He's completely blind.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Gladius has a scar, and there's this whole additional
yeah,
mystery storyline with Prompto, which I like Prompto and his storyline because it was different. Like I don't want to spoil it, but
yeah,
it was easily one of the best little stories that they did. And then obviously you have the bad guy story, which was also pretty cool.
yeah. Episode
Um,
Arden. That was the start of season pass 2,
yeah,
which
which they
nobody bought.
canceled immediately. Canceled right after that. The
Yeah,
dude left.
There's supposed to be episode Noctis Last, I think.
Yeah.
There's a whole episode of him, episode Luna Freya as well.
Luna Freya and Arania. Arena, what is it? The girl.
I'm not sure.
The girl
Oh,
that joined the party for like one chapter. You know what I'm talking
I know what
about?
you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
the one with the black
yeah,
hair.
yeah.
Yeah,
She was supposed to have a chapter too, which is funny because she was a fan favorite for a lot of people.
she was so just like I didn't understand anything about her. We definitely need that
Yeah,
episode for
yeah,
her because she
yeah, for
was
sure.
dope. But
Yeah, she needed
yeah,
more. She needed some. That's kind of like what trips me about this game. When it comes to the main characters, like the whole party of the guys and the
yeah,
one other girl, they have such a good like character development. Like
yeah,
just them hanging out and like getting talking about like their stuff. What I love, like to me, like that was like the best moments of Final Fantasy. Like when you go on like you get ingredients to cook, he gets a new recipe, and then
right.
like he makes a new dish, and then like you guys eat, and then just chat and everything. Like this is cool shit. Like that was like peak
Yeah,
of the game. Like that was the part that I really enjoyed
I
about
think
it.
they like play card games too.
Oh yeah,
If you're
yeah,
like chilling out somewhere, they do different things depending on where you go and
yeah,
like spend the
yeah.
night, which is I think is so interesting.
Yeah.
I watched like a behind the scenes thing, and they recorded so many lines, and those guys seem like they're actual friends. Like they didn't deserve the treatment they got with 15 because
I
they
will
tried
say,
so hard.
I will say that's kind of one of the things where like they did a friendship that almost feels like a really good like it even feels better than like some of the Persona group friendships. Like this one feels
Exactly.
really legit. Like you really feel like the friendship with everybody and everything.
Yeah.
It's easily like one of the best parts about it.
The
Um,
dialogue isn't like because like sometimes in Persona you get that weird dialogue where it's like so anime like where
yeah, it's like a little
everybody
cringy joke.
walks up and it's like hey, and the other person's like hello, nice to meet you. It's
And
like if you're friends you don't
everybody
talk to
has
each
to
other
say
like
a
that.
line. Everybody has to say a line all the time. And like
Yeah,
that's one of the things I'm kind of like, oh man, why are you repeating the same thing? Everybody already said it.
yeah.
We already had this conversation. But
Like
no,
sometimes Noctis and the boys in the car they just sit in
just
silence and listen to
chilling and they
music.
just listen to music, dude. That's like
Yeah,
the best parts. And I actually like I'll give them props. They did try to fix it with the royalty edition or the king edition. What was it something?
yeah. I
But
think it's just Royal, which is so strange because it's so similar to P5's
oh, it's
thing.
funny. It's funny because whenever Persona 5 came out in Japan, they were like they were freaking out about it. They were thinking that it was gonna be like this like versus kind of situation, and it was
Oh,
funny because I remember actually. Oh, speaking of Square Enix, we can talk about the Nier series too. Have you ever played any of the Nier games?
Um, I haven't played them. I saw somebody watch them. I was gonna play Near Automata, but I heard about the remake of the first game. I was like, I'll play that first, and then jump to
To the
Near
Automata.
Automata.
Well,
Then yeah.
I don't know if you have Game Pass, but it's free on Game Pass,
Oh
and
wow, yeah. I
it's
don't have
patched
anything Microsoft.
on the PC.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, yeah. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, so you can check it out. I don't know. I bought Game Pass because to me it's such a good deal at this point. Like I played so many games that like it's just made more sense to get it or not. I don't know. People are like mad about it, but like I'll be honest. I'm playing some games I will never otherwise play. Like I'm not into shooters a whole lot, but I played all the Doom games there. I was like
The
I played
Doom
through
games are
them.
dope.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
good. Yeah, the music is so fucking good. I was like I spent just hours and everything, and
Have you heard about the thing with like Royal coming to Game Pass? I've seen that all
I
over the
literally
place.
just made a video about it today. Like, well, my video released today about it. About
Yeah, I don't know if because I just see people because somebody posted it was supposed to be at the concert and it didn't
Mhm.
happen. I'm like, I knew that wasn't gonna
Oh no,
happen.
no, that was a really bad leak. The person whoever made that leak, that was like a really bad one. They
Yeah, it was
first
so
of all,
fake.
they're like so, it was so fucking fake. I don't know how people even believe that. But for real
Yeah,
though, here's the deal, and I said this before. Persona is gonna come to Game Pass at some point. the
probably.
I mean the Yakuza zero, the entire Yakuza series is already on Game Pass. It's
I could
from
see
zero
SMT go in there
from zero
too.
to six. Sega made money from that deal with Microsoft. There's no reason for them not to say no. Like it's literally free money. So like
Yeah,
why would they just not take it? Like like I mean like Sega obviously likes money. They did it with their biggest franchise. Sega
yeah,
and I'm sorry, Sega what is like Yakuza and the Sony games are like their biggest franchises right now. So
yeah. I mean, it makes sense, and you know, yeah, like we said, it's a corporation at the end of the day, so I think that makes sense as to why they wouldn't do that. Which you would assume Atlas, like, because like we've all talked about this before, like putting P4 on console, whatever. I know everybody says port beggars, this, that, or the other, but like
yeah,
it'd make them so much money. It's like
yeah.
even out from like a port beggar perspective,
Forget
it's
about the
like
port begging or anything like that. It literally just makes sense. Like how much
yeah,
bank do you want to do? Like Persona 4 Golden was one of the best selling games on Steam on 2020.
yeah, that's
Like,
so
like
strange.
just put it like that. And it's a fucking like if you want to say it, it's one of those like smaller RPGs. Like it's not like freaking Final Fantasy. Like it's
Yeah,
the difference between Final Fantasy and Persona. It's like a huge difference. So to see it just sell
right.
so well on 2020, and like obviously people are interested in your product.
They always make a third party do it anyway. Like, why can't they? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna buy the company. I mean, like I don't think Microsoft is just like shitting bricks of gold to just kind of just buy
yeah,
every little company they want to buy or anything like that. And from like an economical standpoint, like Sega Sammy makes just so many other things that Microsoft wouldn't be interested in. Like they make
yeah.
arcades, they make like the pachinko machines, and like all this stuff. Like it doesn't really make sense for Microsoft to like go into the business in
Well,
that.
from what I know, like Microsoft doesn't do a lot for like the anime
Yeah,
market.
yeah, exactly. But at the
This is why
same
they got
time,
Bethesda. You know, what I mean,
yeah,
it's
but
not
at the
really
same time,
anime.
I'm sure they want to get into the Japanese market. The
Yeah,
Xbox sells like shit in Japan. So I'm sure
yeah,
like if they get, let's say like if they get Atlas or Sega or somebody or like a Square Enix, and they make them, yo, I want you to make me a fucking uh, JRPG that is gonna sell. I mean, like if you think about it, Square Enix has so many big JRPG series. They have
it's
the
true.
Dragon Quest series. They have the Final Fantasy series. They have what else do they have? Oh shit! I like Kingdom Hearts, obviously.
Yeah,
So
although
like
that did jump to Microsoft. Kingdom
yeah,
Hearts is
so
on
like
there.
think about it. Like if they were to go, and I don't think they just have the money to buy Square Enix or Sega, but I'm definitely
Yeah,
sure they're gonna try to get some kind of exclusivity deal because they are selling. They're not selling Xboxes on
that's
Japan.
crazy. Well, that's
Yeah,
because Sony has so many exclusive. They have most of the Japanese market, which makes such huge games. I mean, they have like exclusivities
which
with
is
Dark
also crazy to me.
Souls.
Which is crazy to me too. Like they just closed their Japanese studio. PlayStation just closed their Japanese studio.
Hmm.
So I don't know what
Yeah.
they're gonna do there. I'm like, you need to make some more RPGs though. Like I know
Yeah.
Persona is there now, but what are you gonna do when Persona starts selling on Switch or on PC?
Yeah,
They
true.
gotta start putting some money on the because they don't. I don't think it's the biggest market, and truthfully, it's not. Like if you see Persona celebrates like a couple million sales, but then like other games like Call of Duty, it's just
Yeah,
sells like
definitely, dude.
billions of dollars per year. It's like
Yeah.
it's not even on the same market or anything like that. But definitely, like I'm sure if they had Persona games exclusive on Xbox, more than one person will have to go and buy an Xbox.
Yeah, I
Not
mean the
really.
Demon Souls and the Yuffie DLC, that's enough to make me want to buy a PS5. Like I've thought about it here recently, and
Yeah.
it's exclusives like that pull in the PS5, which those are both like Japanese developers. It makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Like I don't think you're gonna be able to buy Sega or anything. I know the rumors are big right now, but these rumors have
Yeah.
been going on for years now. It's not the first time that I heard them, but I do think they are gonna probably come to Game Pass or something. They gotta get some JRPGs.
Yeah, some exclusivity deals because that's how Final Fantasy VII is, right? It's gonna
Yeah.
eventually be coming to PC. We all know that. Same
Hmm.
thing with 15. Like people were saying it wasn't ever gonna go. It eventually came to PC later.
Oh yeah,
15
yeah,
did, and
100%. Yeah. Did it ever
yeah,
come to Xbox?
I
It did,
don't
right?
know.
15?
It
I'll have to
might
check.
have.
It
I don't
might
know.
have, but I don't actually remember.
It wouldn't make sense if it's on PC. It probably should also be on Xbox. If they didn't, then they must really have some like strong ties to like making sure it doesn't pop up there. Because I know most of
Oh no,
Final
it did.
Fantasy.
It did. It did.
Okay, good.
Later, like way
Wait,
later.
yeah, because I think like FF13's on there too.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think it came out later. Oh, it has 15 chapters. Huh.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Mm. Anyway, yeah, I mean it's cool. I'm still a Final Fantasy fan. Obviously, we have 16 coming up pretty soon,
Which also
and
has exclusivity with
yeah, which
Sony.
also has a deal. So I don't know, man. I'm excited for it. This is literally like if I were to grab everything from Square Enix that I'm excited about, 16 is like sits right at the top of like everything else.
Definitely.
Uh,
I mean, I'm excited for what Final Fantasy Remake's gonna do. At least, like the Yuffie DLC, like I know the DLCs can be bad, but they still can be great. But like, from what I hear now, it's like these are kind of just the things to keep us busy. I feel
yeah,
like until part two. I mean, the
yeah.
phone game being a battle royale, it's like I don't think I'm gonna play
So
that.
they also
But
have this other what is it? They have another game coming out. They just announced it. It was like
oh,
Project Atia or something like that. And it was like Foresight or something. Have you seen it?
I don't
They
think so.
they
Oh, Forsaken, I think, right?
Forsaken
Something like that.
For
But
something. I have
yeah,
to
it was
check.
Project Athena was what it was first,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
yeah, that
and
should be coming
then
out.
they just made something cool. I don't know. It's Forspoken. That's what it is. Forspoken.
Forspoken, that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
I don't
that was
know.
at the direct.
And it's just a PlayStation 5 exclusive apparently.
Yeah, I could see that. That was done, I think, by a lot of Final Fantasy's team because
Mm.
it played a lot like Noctis. Now he would move around and stuff like that when
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was just
Well,
a
that's the
project, right?
team. That's the team that they have built that worked on 15. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah. That's why
yeah.
it looks so much like it. Like I seen him like the character put their hand out and do something. I was like, that's exactly how Noctis
Not
like
just
shoots
works. Yeah.
magic. Yeah.
Which is I'm also excited. Like I said, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for 15. It's just 16. I mean, let's just.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to be excited.
And
Cautiously optimistic for the remake. I'm just optimistic at the remake right now. I'm not.
well,
I'm not like super hyped at this point. I'm kind of like, we'll see where we'll go from there.
and we also have Kingdom Hearts coming to PC though, but it is Epic Games exclusive, which is very strange. Seeing as how they have their whole Final Fantasy library like pretty much
Oh,
on
oh,
Steam.
yeah. I
That's
don't know.
definitely like an Epic Games giving them some money to make sure
Yeah,
Kingdom
yeah.
Hearts
Oh,
ends
of
up
course, yeah.
there.
They get somewhat. They make money. They make more money from like exclusivity deals. And like at this point, let's be honest, the Game Store. Oh, you can say whatever you want to say about it, but it's still selling games. Like people still
It's
buying games.
good. The free games on there are good too. It's
They
like
get
really
great
good
games.
games.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
it's like
so many.
$30,
I
$40
never
games.
purchased a game there, but I have so many free games.
That's how I am. Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
like,
It's nuts how they do that. I mean,
No,
I'll probably get it on PC through the Epic Games Store. I hate that I'm doing that. Borderlands was also locked down there too, and I thought about doing that too. But Kingdom
uh,
Hearts, if
you
they could
know,
port stuff better than Atlas,
hold out. They're gonna do a free game. They're gonna do free Borderlands at some point. They,
probably.
yeah, they did free
The Handsome
Batman.
Collection was
The
free on
whole
there.
Batman series. They made the whole Batman series free
Really,
at
the
some
the
point.
Borderlands 1 and 2 bundled, or 2 and the pre-sequel bundled together. That Handsome Collection was free on Epic Games, like very very early on whenever
Yeah,
they
yeah.
released a new DLC, which is interesting.
Oh, okay. Oh, right on. I mean, it's a business. I don't get it. Like, some
Yeah,
people got mad about it, but at the same time, I'm like, Steam sometimes it's not. It might have some deals, but at the same time, it's kind of like you can't have just one launcher doing all
yeah.
these games. You have to have some kind of competition. And again, I'm not saying that I like the Epic Games Store or anything like that, because obviously it just has some shitty, scummy shit behind it and everything.
Yeah, and it like pressures you to buy Fortnite so much. I'm like, I don't want it on there. It pressures you so
Oh,
bad.
man, every
But I just
time.
also feel like Epic Games Store also just flat out like the UI looks a lot better. I think so too. Because the user interface on what's it called? The user interface on Steam kind of looks poopy. I gotta
Yeah,
admit, it's so
that
confusing at
is
times.
so ugly, so old. Like it feels like an early two
Dated.
thousands forum. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like Gabe
Yeah,
Newell needs to figure something out
get this
there.
shit
I don't
ready
know.
and start making some games again. Half-Life 3.
Yeah, well, he did the whole VR thing, and I think there was a thing from him himself saying something like, yeah, this probably isn't gonna sell well." It's like, well, come on, Gabe, do something new then.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
make more games. I don't know. I don't think they're worried about it. They made so much. They made so much money. They don't really care anymore. I think. I feel like that's when companies turn kind of
right.
bad at times. When they made so much money, they don't care anymore. Like I don't know. Epic Games knows they only have so much left with with Fortnite. Fortnite is a big
True.
thing, or was a big thing a few years ago, but they know that shit is gonna be done any day now. They can't. They don't have any power or control over it.
Yeah,
Like
battle royales in general too. They're probably
yeah,
gonna.
like
Yeah,
it's just one of those things. Every few years, there's this one genre that just randomly picks up. It had
yeah,
nobody has any control over that. Like Fortnite was a thing for years, and nobody fucking played that thing.
yeah. They're like zombie mode or whatever. That I didn't.
Yeah,
I never touched it ever.
yeah. I never even heard of it until like picked up or whatever. Well, actually, no. Actually, no. One of my friends bought it because he has like a crafting thing where you can like build and everything,
Yeah,
and you have like to fight other zombies, and you can play co-op and build and stuff like that. So my friend bought it so we could play that, and then obviously he picked up with all this other shit and everything, and I was like, right,
yeah.
whatever. But you know what? I've never been like a huge fan. I just don't like the way the game looks.
I don't
Like,
like how people build so much. Nobody actually shoots people in the game. The only time
yeah,
they shoot is when
oh
they're
my god,
directly on top of you. And I
yeah,
played before season 1 ever existed.
uh,
That's when I played it like a little bit. It wasn't a ton, but like it was a cool idea to play a battle royale for like, you know, when it first came out. I think PUBG was huge too, but like
yeah. I
it
think, but
easily was something that died for me
yeah,
after a
but
while.
at the same time, like I said, like these things you just don't have any control. You don't know when these things are gonna die. Like Among Us or the Fall Guys, like those
Yeah.
little party games and everything like that. Any day, and they know it really well. Like, they gotta make every single buck they can, because any second any of these games is gonna be gone. Like they're or it's gonna
Which
be like Minecraft. It's like it's not as popular as it was before. People still play it, but
that game
like
goes up and down every time.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
sometimes it'll randomly get huge, which is so interesting. I think it's when they drop updates because updates like can
Yeah.
change the entire thing that you have. Talking about battle royales, we have the Final Fantasy battle royale, the mobile thing.
Oh
This
man.
is a train wreck.
I
I don't
I
know.
I made a pause as soon as I saw it. I was like, "Oh, Square Enix, how far have you fallen?" They used to build trends on, like, the whole JRPG genre was
Yeah,
revolutionized by them, and now they are just copying battle royale. So I was so disappointed. That was like the biggest disappointment. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh man!" And it's a gacha game too. It's both
yeah.
gacha
Jeez.
and battle royale. It's like the worst
Yeah.
of both worlds. Like they're not even trying to be good at it anymore.
Yeah, they're not. And it's like I think Donkey made a video on this. I don't know if you watch him on. He's pretty big. I don't know if you watch him, but like he's
Yeah,
watching the direct, and he's
super.
like, it's like, oh, there's a separate DLC that you have to have a PS5 for, which is UFO thing. He's like, yeah, he's like, and then next they're gonna say there's a battle royale, and then it ends up being a battle royale at the end of it. I'm like, yo, like it's so
Oh,
predictable kind of now too,
it's kind of
which
it's
really
almost bad. Like
sucks.
if you really think about it, it's just bad stuff. I don't know. I'm not a fan of any of this stuff. And I was gonna make a video which we talked about like how I thought Square Enix could kind of redeem themselves or whatever. I'm
Yeah,
like, in a sense, like that's the whole thing that baffles me so much. They made good games. They made some really shit, crappy games, and I kind of
yeah,
like I feel like we could probably wrap this whole podcast here, but the Marvel Avengers kind of like the one thing that I want to touch on. But I don't know if you have anything else
yeah.
to go over. But the whole Marvel Avengers thing is like such a big train wreck that it's just like every time that I hear about it, it gets progressively worse.
It's so bad. Hawkeye in the new DLC looks like a random like generated character. It doesn't even look like Hawkeye at all. It's like a dude with a bow, and it's just like he has a T-shirt
T-shirt, it's a
on.
random T-shirt, and I'm like, oh man, that looks bad. And I don't know, like I'm sure it's based on some comic. There's there a lot of stuff that they do and everything.
Probably.
But to me, I'm just kind of like the whole aspect of the game is built on other games. It's like a Destiny hack and slash type thing that they tried to do here. Like
Yeah.
it's a life as a service game, obviously, but like it's just so poorly designed. I don't know. It's this is kind of like for me like bottom of the barrel Square Enix, like a Square Enix at its worst.
Why did
The
Marvel even pick him? That's what I want to know. You know what I mean? There could be a really good Marvel game that I'd probably
Yeah,
love.
and I made this is my second video in the channel ever. I made a video talking about how Spider-Man kind of like built like this. Marvel Spider-Man was this huge successful game,
Huge, dude.
and it had like a lot of really cool stuff. And in my mind, I was like, Joe, they announced this Square Enix Avengers game, like that's gonna be connected, and like because
Yeah.
like
Insomniac should have done the Avengers game.
yeah, I just feel
Same
like I
people
don't
make
know.
Spider-Man.
Sure, I get it. They probably didn't want to sign an exclusivity deal with PlayStation for that one because the Avengers were huge at the time. Like the movies were coming out and everything like that.
That's how I
And
wish it was done.
it
Like
was, it
separate
was
games of each hero, and then
yeah,
boom, the Avengers game.
that's what I thought that was going to happen because they interviewed one of the Insomniac guys and it's like, yeah, this Spider-Man game is kind of like the Iron Man of the MCU. And I was like, holy shit, they're making a bunch of
It's
and
happening.
it's
It's
happening.
happening.
Yeah. And then you get one game and it's like it's complete trash. And I'm like, everything about it from like the story standpoint to like the gameplay to like all this glitches. Did you ever play the game at all? Or like did you
My brother loves it, and I've seen it, and it looks so
yeah.
good.
Oh man. I played the no not the Spider-Man game, the Marvel game.
Oh, the Marvel one? No, I have not
Um,
played the Avengers.
oh dude, I played it and it had so many glitches. Like that first week I was like, I'm gonna return this game.
I'm gonna get my money back.
Yeah, like I don't even want to support this product at all. What the red flag for me was they had this big announcement, right? They announced the game, they showcased it, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna do a whole presentation. We're gonna talk about it. Cool. I watched the presentation. They start talking about DLC. The game is not even out,
God,
and they already had a roadmap for all the DLC for this game. I was like, oh man, this game is a train wreck. It's not gonna
so
work out.
bad. Well, I mean, another IP they got, and I don't know. I don't remember if you said you've played these or not, but like the direct just happened, right? Or I guess is the Square Enix direct? I'm calling everything a direct because that's just how Nintendo says it, but I'm gonna call it the Square Enix direct. I don't know if it's actually called that, but Life is Strange is on there too,
Oh,
and
well, that's the funny
that looks
thing about it
pretty
is
good.
Square Enix owns the IP, but they didn't make the game. It was
Yeah,
made by Dom Knott, so this game is actually not made by them. It's
yeah,
made
it's
by
not from
another
them.
team. And so I'm like, I saw it and I saw the trailer, which I'm excited for it. By the way, I'm a huge Life is Strange
Oh yeah,
fan. I'm
so
really
am
actually
I.
streaming the no, I'm sorry, Before the Storm. I'm streaming it right now. So to me, I'm like I enjoy these games. They're like uh, one of my friends was like, "It's a guilty pleasure kind of game," and I
Oh,
get it.
totally, dude.
But like,
Totally.
I love the music. Although I'll tell you, fucking Square Enix claimed this video 7 times. Every single
Oh
song
my
that they play
god.
is copyrighted. So
Yeah, I got. At the end, I was showing my because I streamed the direct. At the end, I was playing some songs from Life is Strange. It was getting claimed by other countries, but it never got claimed by America. I was like, how
yeah,
does that happen? It's like I'm streaming this in English. Like, how did that get claimed in Brazil? They're not
yeah.
even speaking English.
I
I
don't
don't
know,
get
but
it.
it was crazy, man. I was like, I don't know. But I like the games though; they're really good. I'm just kind of worried that a different team is working on them. It almost feels like a slap in the face, kind of like, well, fuck you. We'll get somebody
Yeah,
else to make it again.
I'm just glad that I mean, Square Enix has IPs that are like great. Like I said, like Life is Strange, such a good IP that they have.
Yeah,
It's Don't Nod, I think, is the people who make it, but
yeah.
it's interesting. And there's supposed to be another direct, I think they said in June. So this first direct, really, to me, honestly, was like the pretty much the Project Athena thing that became Forspoken, whatever. That's there. It's not really Final Fantasy though, even though it's the same
Yeah,
sort of team and engine. But I think the stuff in June, I think that's gonna be their Final Fantasy whatever else.
16. I think 16 because the Nomura thing. He's just like, oh, we have so much stuff. I was like, oh man, they're gonna make a ton of Final Fantasy stuff. They're gonna milk
Mm.
the hell out of 7. They're not done with that. 7 is
Yeah,
probably gonna announce an anime. You mark my words here. They're gonna announce an anime for Final Fantasy 7. Like,
yeah.
if they
I
made an
think
anime
people
for,
would like that though,
yeah, no, I'm not saying
because
it's
Avid
bad. I'm just
Children
saying
did so well.
they are gonna do it. Like, I don't know if they did it, it's gonna sell. Like, I don't know. It's just they have so much money, so much potential for more money. I guess.
They could do it right, and I think people would love it because Advent Children did so well. If they did another like 3D, like a CGI type of thing, because their in-game models look so good. I mean, it's actually a pre-rendered sort of cutscene with like the
Yeah,
upscaled
yeah, yeah,
models. So great.
yeah,
That's how
for
the
sure.
Final Fantasy 15 movie was, and I thought that
Oh, the movie
was
was so
so
good.
good.
It was good. Although I hated that it was like a separate thing. It should have definitely been
Right.
on the game. But it was cool. It was a cool. It looks great. The music was good. Everything about it was like good stuff there. So I
That's
don't
how they
know.
go about it, you know. I'd watch a Final Fantasy 7 movie, I think, like that, if it wasn't just like, oh, this is a chunk out of the story, or like if they
Yeah.
actually did it in the right way or whatever. But
No,
I
they're
guess we
they're
have
probably
that.
gonna do it with, as a movie. What I would think, and it's kind of just like speculation here, whatever. They're probably gonna make like a prequel movie for Final Fantasy Seven, kind of setting up characters and other people. Maybe like more about like um Sephiroth and kind of like all the
Yeah.
stories and everything as a
Well,
movie kind of thing. I don't think they're gonna make a separate game about it, but that will be a movie kind of thing.
I know that Ever Crisis, the phone game, the other phone game, because there's two. It's like,
The
yeah, Battle
other
Royale than that. But Ever Crisis, I think is it's supposed to help you with that. It's supposed to explain the story up to where we are now in Final Fantasy VII, like part one or whatever. And I'm not sure because you said like the multi thing. Is it
yeah,
seven remake or is it the original? And I'm not sure
yeah.
what it's trying to do there,
Oh,
but
it's the
yeah,
original one. It's not the remake.
it's the same style, and I know that Final Fantasy 15 did this too. It was like the small chibi type of
Oh
part.
yeah,
That's
the
that's what it
pocket
is.
edition or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but like the whole seven
Oh
storyline, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I'm not gonna play it. I already played the original one. I don't really have any incentive to kind of do it. Although I
Yeah.
did get a sponsor actually, and they offer me to. They have like this emulator for phones on your PC or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe I take that as a sponsor, and I'll do the thing or whatever. But I'm like thinking about it. I don't know. I haven't felt comfortable with a sponsor yet. I had like offers, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's some things that I don't. They're like so far on my channel, and I'm like, I feel like dirty just kind of like talking around. Like,
Do I become as tainted as Square?
yeah, like I don't know. I don't want to be a shill. Get just like talk about some random ass product.
I would love to do it if it was like another Kingdom Hearts 2. I would definitely do it for something like that. That's my thing. Like I know we bash on Square, but at the end of the day, they have done amazing
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. I
Oh no,
totally would for like a
100%.
good thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'll be excited for some stuff. I just want to. I just want them to do more consumer friendly practices. because
Right.
I know they want to get money, but look, they're gonna make money either way. Like I feel like whether they are good or bad with the consumers, they
Yeah.
still wanna make money. The games sell a fuck ton of. Like not a single game that doesn't sell like they do.
And yeah, and well, like you talk about that though. Like one more thing, because I don't know. I think we might be wrapping up soon, but like the Final Fantasy 15 $100 Steelbook edition doesn't come with the season pass. That's what I bought when I was like younger and naive, and I pre-ordered
Oh,
like Final Fantasy 15 like a year beforehand. I was so disappointed it didn't have it.
oh,
Like
yeah.
$100 version
Oh yeah,
doesn't have it. The
same thing.
Steelbook.
Same thing. Not only does it not have the steelbook, it didn't have
What the
anything. It
hell?
was just a steelbook.
You
It
get the
didn't.
movie.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is.
you're right. You get the movie, but then the 400 collector's edition doesn't come with the DLC either.
That's
The one,
so
yeah, it
dumb.
comes with a cool ass figure and all this other stuff, but it doesn't come with DLC. Like that's really weird. I don't know.
How they're doing it now with Final Fantasy VII's, like they're not even gonna act like there's DLC till you get the game. Then you have to buy the season pass.
That's what
That's
they
their workaround
did
now.
with Kingdom Hearts. They didn't tell you anything about DLC. They're just like, yo, so about that DLC, here's DLC if you want to buy it. That's
Yeah,
story.
that's.
That's a progression of the game.
You want to know how stuff actually ends? Well, here's the DLC. We know we didn't tell you about it before, but that's definitely like writing the story as it goes. Like, oh, did that sell well? Okay, well now we gotta add some DLC to that,
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Like I don't know, and I'm definitely like not bashing. I feel like I'm not bashing them hard enough or anything like that. But I'm like, I really love their games. Like at the end of the day,
same.
I know in like other podcasts or other times that I talk about them, I'm like, like I may talk shit about them sometimes, but like at the end of the day, like every single game they release, I'm buying. Like Life is Strange,
Same.
like Life is Strange, like the a new Final Fantasy game, like like the big games that I'm looking at, I'm gonna at the end of the day buy them. Whenever they make another Dragon Quest game, I'm gonna buy it too. Like
Yeah,
I
I
just
think it's because we care so much about it being good, because we've seen it do so good
yeah,
before.
exactly. Yeah,
Like
and
Final
I
Fantasy
hope,
16 might
yeah,
be like, it could be like my favorite game of all time for all I
yeah.
know.
Oh, and
Because it looks so
everything
good.
that everything that I've seen about it, and this is like off cuff here, I love so far. Like everything when it comes
Same.
to like gameplay, the gameplay kind of reminds me of kind of like a really fast Dark Souls kind of thing. Like it's flashy and it's like a more fleshed out version of the 15 gameplay. Like it
Yeah.
just more fluid and everything, but it feels more methodical too, like a Dark Souls kind of game or like Sekiro.
Well, they're kind
Like
of
with
going
their
back to the roots, right? They're going back to like D&D esque kind of, um, yeah, like mythology, I guess you say, like you said,
yeah,
which is
like
so
medieval
cool.
setting, I guess, like Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, I guess. Like I don't know. It'd be
Yeah,
cool to see. I'm curious to see what direction they're gonna take this on. It could easily be a flop too. Like I'm not
it
gonna
could.
pretend like they haven't had some flops because they had. But I'm just curious to see what direction they're gonna take. I'm
Same.
interested. The characters look cool. Like the music, the one trailer that we had with the music, I'm like, this is
It's
good
good.
shit. Like, yeah, it's good stuff.
The
So,
voice actors seem dope. The animations look
oh
cool.
yeah,
We're learning
yeah,
about like characters, like the actual characters themselves being like
yeah,
summoning creatures that we see in the later parts of the game. So it could easily tie into other games too, like how
yeah,
some
yeah,
Final Fantasy
definitely.
do a bit, which
And they're
is
doing this whole crystal storyline where there's no crystals and everything. So it's like
yeah,
it's a whole thing. Like I'm really excited for it. It's gonna be interesting to see how they develop this one. I don't. I just want to say like kind of one final thing. I guess I don't think it's gonna
sure.
come out anytime soon. And this is
No,
easily gonna be like a 2023, 2024 game. And
yeah,
from what we've seen so far, it's just I don't know if they're not ready. They changed direction. It could be anything. But the last two Final Fantasy games that I demoed, which was 15 and 13, they had like a whole gameplay and everything, and then the final product is so different from that. So I don't know where
true.
it's at. But I don't know. I don't expect it anytime soon. I'm expecting them like a year or two before we
Yeah.
actually get like a release date and everything. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe in June they'll even talk about that. We'll have to see. There might, I guess, there could be a follow up to this maybe podcast, something like that, the series, depending on
Yeah,
how
of course.
that goes or whatever. So, but
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it when that happens. I don't know.
oh yeah,
could be in June, could be next year, could be in 2 years.
who knows?
I don't know. Whenever Square Enix decides to continue with the Final Fantasy franchise, not the Final
Yeah,
Fantasy VII franchise.
yeah, true. Well, I
Yeah,
guess
I
the
don't know.
UV DLC, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. We'll see. All right. Well, thank you so much for having this discussion here with me. It was fun to having this. Obviously, this is your first podcast to kind of
Yeah,
like a double whammy here. We're thank you everybody. Please check out his channel. Obviously, check out my channel if you're
yeah. Check out his
watching.
as well. Yeah,
And it was fun. Thank you so much for having us here. Again, subscribe, like all this kind of stuff. And I don't know.
definitely, guys. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm the Rising Sun podcast. I guess I'd say that at the beginning. He did the intro, but yeah, definitely sub to both channels. Give us some likes. Who knows? Probably do more of these in the future. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. See you all in the next one.